What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video I'm going to show you how to replace the thermostat on this 2010 Toyota Rav4. If you need parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. From underneath the vehicle, we need to remove this panel right here. This one was pretty much falling off. There really wasn't much holding it on, but you should have some push pins right here, right here, right here, right here, and over there. And then this one didn't have any of these fasteners, but there's some type of screws that go there. So you want to pull those off and then slide this down and slide it out. Get that out of your way. All right, I want to loosen up the drain on the bottom of the radiator right here. It's below the radiator hose right there. So loosen that up. Make sure you have a drain bucket underneath. And actually it's pretty tight, so I'm gonna take some pliers. Now be careful with this, because if it breaks, then you're gonna have to replace the radiator. If it doesn't move with pliers easily, then don't even bother with it. Just drain it with the hose or something else. And there we go. Just gonna let that drain slowly. Now I'm gonna take the cap off. This is gonna make it drain a little bit faster. A little bit faster. I wanna pull this trim panel off. Take these little push clips out. What you do is you push down just a little bit on the clip. You just slide it out. Just use a pocket screwdriver or a pick. You just grab that panel, slide it out. Now take a 10mm socket, extension, and a ratchet. I'm using an electric ratchet. If you don't have an electric one, just use a regular one. Take these two bolts out, one here, and there's one on the back right there. So when you're doing the alternator, if you didn't want to take the reservoir off completely, just take those two bolts out, and you could tip this to the side. Then you don't have to deal with draining the coolant or anything like that. If that's in your way, then just take it out completely, like we did. Just gonna use some pliers. You can use special hose clamp pliers for this, but regular ones work too. Move this hose clamp. And this one as well. All right, so we're just trying to break the seal with the hose and slide it off, because sometimes you just can't get the hoses off. So if you just take a little pick, get underneath the hose, go all the way around. And then you can slide the hose off, just like that. And there's the reservoir. Be careful. I'm going to use a 10mm wrench and disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. Just slide that off and out of the way. Now I'm going to take the serpentine belt off. I'm going to use this belt tensioner tool. This is a 14mm socket on the tensioner tool. You could probably try to use a 14mm socket and a ratchet if you don't have this tool. And I'm going to turn this clockwise and try to grab the belt off the alternator. Just slide it off. And sometimes it's kind of hard to get it off the alternator, so if you can reach down to the water pump pulley, slide it off that pulley. Might be a little bit easier. Yep, that's a little easier. And slide that off, and then loosen up the tension on the tensioner. And take that off. So with the serpentine belt, you can leave it right there if it's just out of your way. If you want, you can take it off completely. We'll just leave it there. All right, now we want to disconnect the alternator. Pull this cover off right here. If you're having trouble getting the cover off, just get a pick from underneath, pull that off, and use a 10mm socket and a ratchet. Take this bolt out, take this nut out. And it is crucial that you have the battery disconnected while you're doing this. You don't want to arc out. All right, so this nut was really tight, so I'm switching to a longer ratchet. Use a little more leverage. There we go. Just hold the cable, that'll prevent something from breaking, or should prevent it from breaking. Take this nut off. Then we're going to take this bolt out. This just holds the wiring harness on right there. It's just a bracket. Use a 10mm socket and ratchet. This bolt out, just like that. And then also this bracket, it's just in my way, so I'm just going to take this bracket off as well. Same 10mm bolt and a ratchet. Then that can be moved. There's a connector right there. I'll disconnect that connector. And there should be a lock button on the side. Disconnect that. So you just push down. If you just push down right there on both sides, then you can release that connector. That's released. We want to take this bolt out right here. I'm going to use a 14mm socket and a ratchet. Take that bolt out. Just switch to an electric ratchet. Grab the bolt, slide it out. And there's another bolt at the base right here. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to use that same 14mm socket and ratchet, break it free. It's on there really tight. Just grab that lower bolt. Be careful if you're using a electric ratchet or an air ratchet. You don't want to get your ratchet stuck against the frame of the vehicle. Pull that bolt out and just grab the alternator. Try to wiggle it a little. And if it gets stuck up against this, you can grab a pry bar and try to pry it out a little bit. Let's try that. Carefully pry on this. You don't want to pry too much because you might crack one of the ears or something. Just go back and forth with it. Alright, slide that out. Just get the wiring harness out of your way. Just have to twist this. This gets past the hoses. And slide the alternator out. There it is. Alright, now we can access the thermostat. I'm going to use a 10mm socket and a ratchet. Loosen this up. And loosen the bottom one up. Now you might be able to access getting the thermostat without taking the alternator out, but the time it took to take the alternator out, it's a lot easier to access the thermostat. All right, now this nut took the stud out, which is okay. It's not going to affect anything. We'll do the same for this one. All right, now this one pulled the stud out as well, which is okay. I'm not worried about that. Just grab the housing and slide it off. And there's the thermostat. Just put the housing to the side, grab the thermostat, and you can use some pliers to grab it if it doesn't come out. Just grab the thermostat and pull it up. Might want to put a drain bucket underneath there. There's the thermostat. take a new gasket, install it on the thermostat, on the new thermostat. And keep in mind, when you're installing the thermostat, sometimes there's these little breathers. You can see it in there. And you want that to the top. And what's gonna happen with that is it's gonna let air bubbles through that so that it can bleed the system a lot easier. See that on the old one right there. So this new one just has it in a different location, but it does the same thing. All right, you just wanna take a rag, clean any of that surface area, and same with on the housing. Just take a rag, wipe it down, make sure there's no excess gasket material or anything, which it looks good here. Take the thermostat. Now you want to install it with this side, the spring side, towards the engine. You don't want to install it backwards. Normally you can't install it backwards, but just be careful. And we have that breather at the top. There we go. Put the housing right over, just like that. And we'll take these studs with the nuts already on them. Get that started, and then get the one started underneath. Then take the 10mm socket and a ratchet and tighten these up. Now I'm going to take a 10mm socket and a torque wrench and torque this to 84 inch-pounds. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. For the bottom one, I'm going to need an extension. Pull the dipstick out of my way. There we go. It's tight. All right. I'll take the alternator, just slide it back in position. Just move these wires out of your way. All right. And try to get those two ears lined up. Top first. Take the bolt. Just wiggle it back and forth. Just trying to get this bolt started. Once you get that started, then I'll try to get the lower one in. Okay, so that one's started. Take the lower bolt. Gonna go in down here. And just slide it up a little bit and get those threads started. Now take a 14mm socket and a ratchet. Tighten these bolts up. Just go back with a hand ratchet and just snug them up. That's good. That's good. I'm going to take these bolts, and install this bracket right here, and then there's another bracket that goes right there. Get those brackets started. Take a 10mm socket and a ratchet, tighten them up. Tighten that up. We'll take this electrical connector, plug that into the alternator, lock it in place. And then we have this positive terminal that's going to go on the alternator. It is keyed, so try to get that to line up with the keys. Pull that cover to the side. This one just fell off, so we'll just put it on after. Install the nut. Now, because it's a little bit important, I'm going to torque this. I'm going to use a 10mm socket and a torque wrench and torque this nut to 87 inch-pounds. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, because you don't want to torque this too much or over-torque it. You could snap that off, so that's pretty important. Take this cover, just slide it over the wire first, like that, and then cover it up. All right, now I have to get the belt back on. Now, you want to make sure the belt goes around the crank pulley and around the AC compressor first. Now this is where it'll be easier if you have the tire off and that panel off on the side. All right, I raised and supported the vehicle. I'm gonna remove the wheel. I'm using a 21mm socket and an air gun. If you don't have an air gun, you can use a breaker bar. Just crack the lug nuts free while the vehicle is still on the ground. Right. Now I wanna take the tire off. This one's stuck on there pretty good, so I'm gonna put one lug nut on so the tire doesn't go flying. All right, so this tire's on there pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is leave one lug nut on there and just hit it on the back side of the tire with a hammer. Break it free. Reason you leave the lug nut so the tire doesn't go flying. And take the lug nut off and pull the tire off. All right, I wanna take this push pin out here, here. There's one here, and normally there's probably one here. This vehicle doesn't have that. I'm just gonna use a trim tool, pop these out, pop the center out first. And pop those out, just like that. Then we can take this panel off, just slide it towards the back of the car, slide it out of the way. All right, so we tried to get the belt on from up top and it's very difficult. So we're gonna go from underneath the vehicle. This is definitely the way to go. It's a lot easier. Make sure the belt goes over the alternator up top. Then I'm gonna have it come around the water pump. Make sure it's around the crankshaft pulley. Right there, and there's some little nubs right here, so make sure the belt goes above those nubs. All right, that's good. Then I'm gonna hold it right over the AC compressor. Take the tensioner tool, put the 14mm socket on it, and loosen up the tension, and slide it over the AC compressor. Just like that. Loosen up the tensioner and just double check. Make sure all the ribs and the belts are in with the ribs on the pulleys and they look good. All right, we'll just take this panel, slide this back in position. Just like that. Take the push pins, get the push pins back in. Right there, right here, right here. And then if you had that one, put that one in there, and then you can put the tire back on. Install the tire. Take the lug nuts, install the lug nuts. Now I lowered the vehicle down to the ground so that the tire's just touching the ground. And I'm gonna torque these with a 21mm socket and a torque wrench to 76 foot-pounds. And I'm gonna do this in a star pattern. The reason you do it in the star pattern is so that the wheel gets tightened down evenly. And then I always like to go around again just to double check. And you're good to go. All right, I'll just slide this coolant reservoir hose on the bottom, and then this one goes on the top, just like that. Take some pliers or some hose clamp pliers and reattach these hose clamps in the right position. And I like to, if you can see where it was on the hose, try to put the hose clamp in the exact same spot that it was. You can see where it's indented. Generally that makes it seal a lot better if it goes back the way it came off. So, do that right there, just like that. Perfect. Take the two bolts, one goes right there, and one goes in here. I'm going to use a 10mm socket extension and a ratchet. Tighten these bolts down. And just snug it up. Same with this back one. There we go. Make sure that coolant drain is closed all the way. Just grab it and just give it a twist. You can try loosening it and just snug it up. You don't want to tighten it too tight, just finger tight and then maybe just a little bit more. So that's good. So if you have this panel, just line this up right like that. Just position that there. So if you have the screws or bolts that go in there, put those back in, and any of the push pins that go in there, there. There's a couple other spots there and there. Right there and there. All right, we're gonna connect the negative terminal on the battery. Take a 10mm socket, 10mm wrench. Tighten this down. Just snug that down and then just wiggle it, make sure it's nice and tight. And just take this cover, and just slide this back in position. Just like that, make sure everything lines up. And now we're just gonna have to reset these push pins. Just push this tab back so the center piece is popping out like that. Slide it in position and then push the button down so it's flush. Do that for all of them. All right, now we're gonna take this coolant funnel, and for this particular vehicle, I don't need any adapters. I can just put this coolant funnel here. This funnel comes with different adapters. We actually sell this at 1aauto.com if you want one. And we're gonna take the appropriate coolant. You're gonna wanna check the owner's manual and make sure you use the right coolant for the vehicle. And we'll fill it up. And as you fill this up, it may take a little while. So you might find that the reservoir completely fills up with coolant, and then just let the vehicle sit for a little while. It's gonna have to bleed itself into the engine. There may be some air pockets, so just be patient and just fill it up and let it bleed. As you can see, it's about 2 minutes later and it drained back down, so just keep doing that. Fill it up, let it sit for a minute, watch it drain. So once you've noticed that the level stays at one level for a little while, what you can do is go over to the radiator hose and give it a squeeze and see if you can get any air bubbles out of it. See if you can get it to bleed a little bit more. It looks pretty good right there. Then what you're gonna wanna do is start the vehicle, let it run, put the heat on low speed and monitor the coolant temperature. Make sure the coolant temperature does not get over 210 degrees or into the red zone. And as long as you feel heat, it should be good. And then you're gonna shut the vehicle off for a little while. And then once it cools down, recheck your level and adjust accordingly. Take the funnel out, take the cap, put the cap back on. Lock it in place.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1aauto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.